You are watching Co-op for 2, and we are continuing our playthrough of the Legacy of Dragonholt campaign. This is episode, I think, 7, corresponding to day 5 in the village, Dragonholt village. Day 4 was a short one. We just sort of wrapped up the end of the day. We failed to go to the bonfire, which would let us hang out and socialize, unfortunately. But it's day 5. We've got a sword being made for us at the smithy that we want to go pick up and hopefully go on an adventure. There's 7 days total in the village, so this is 5 of 7 in the village. So let's begin our day by reading 6452. The rising sun brings with it a rising sound of chatter and commotion. It seems somehow that the village is even noisier this morning than it had been on market day yesterday. You rise and look through the window to find the streets already bustling, crammed full of gnomes. Gnomes run shouting toward one another, coming together like old friends long apart. Gnomes cluster in groups, laughing and talking. Gnomes run hither and yon, carrying goods and supplies every which way. The few humans on the streets at this hour alternate between lending a hand and staring in mute amazement. You dress yourself and open the door, intending to go down to the common room for breakfast. Standing in the hall just outside your door is a young boy, a gnome toddler sucking his thumb. He stares up at you silently with large blue-green eyes. Malashit, there you are. A gnome man climbs the stairs into the hall. He's young for a father, no more than his early 20s, with bronze skin and a tangle of messy dark brown hair. The child toddles over to the man and is scooped up to sit held on the man's hip. Sorry if he was bothering you, says the gnome before he hoists the boy over his shoulder and turns to descend the stairs. Let's go back downstairs, buddy. The toddler flexes his fingers in your direction as a sort of unpracticed wave. Downstairs, you find the common room buzzing with activity. Dozens of gnomes sit or stand everywhere. As you watch, the door opens and a group of 3 gnomes comes inside, kicking dust from their boots and doffing traveling capes. Sapphire greets them warmly as she hurries by, carrying a platter piled high with golden eggs and steaming ham. As she returns to the kitchen, she meets a gnome woman with her frizzy hair bundled behind a green kerchief. They exchange words, and the frizzy-haired woman rushes to the newcomers and escorts them to a table near the back wall, encouraging the gnomes already sitting there to shift on their benches and make room. A young gnome man with a silver stud flashing in his ear soon delivers a pitcher of cider to the newcomers. Clearly, Sapphire has acquired additional staff to accommodate the rush, although it's not clear from where. The gnome man you met earlier sees you standing at the stairs and beckons you over to his table where he bounces his son on his knee. I'll make room, he says. I guess you weren't expecting the crowd. You sit, and a few moments later, Sapphire approaches, clattering a broad plate of eggs and ham to the table in front of you. Oh, good, she says. I see you've met my nephew Jasper and his son Mal. My brother's son, Miriam's cousin, she explains. Pleased to meet you, says Jasper. Aunt Sapphire, who is this you were... This is who you were telling me about. Sapphire blushes slightly. Now, Jasper, don't you go making me out to be some sort of gossip. Oh, no, Auntie, I'd never do that, Jasper says, then winks at you. So we can ask, what's going on here? Why are there so many gnomes here? I can ask Jasper, will you be staying long? Or I can say, I must be going, thanks for breakfast. All right, we got to ask, why are there so many gnomes? So let's go to our second page of Dragonholt. So why are there so many gnomes? It's some like gnome family reunion. 3807. Oh, did no one tell you? Asks Sapphire, grinning like she's enjoying a private joke. It's festival day, says Jasper, bouncing his son high into the air. Festival, chirps the child. It's an important celebration in Wanderer Gnome life, explains Sapphire, a time for all the wanderers to gather and be in the same place for a change. It's a good time to catch up with family you might not have seen in a long time, says Jasper. This is the first festival both Aunt Sapphire and I have been to since Mal was born. That's because it's the first one held in our felt in years, explains Sapphire. I suppose I just got lucky it was held in my very town. Luck nothing, Auntie. The festival's here because you are, laughs Jasper. Gnomes move around, and so do our festivals, he explains to you. We don't often hold our celebrations in the same place twice. You ask what precisely the festival is celebrating, and both gnomes glance at one another as if confused. Well, says Sapphire, Mal grabs a fistful of ham from your plate. Jasper laughs and holds his son close to him. Life, he chuckles. We're celebrating life, all of it. We come together, we trade, we gossip, we get married and buy and sell and launch new business ventures and make apprenticeships and trade knowledge, and we live. Lift, says Mal, and jams the fistful of ham into his mouth. So I can say, did you come just for the festival, Jasper, or we can leave? All right, I guess we'll talk to him more. 4838. I mean, this guy is not dazzling me with his conversation. But let's see if he's here for something else. I did come for the festival, acknowledges Jasper. He lifts Mal up and rests him on the table, where the child reaches out and snatches up a spoon. But Aunt Sapphire suggested that this might be a good village to spend a couple years in. Let little Malachite grow up a bit before I get back on the road. I still think so, says Sapphire. In spite of recent events, I'm sure everything will shake out well in the end. I hope so, Auntie, Jasper grins. If nothing else, Mal and I will get to know Cousin Miriam a bit better. So I can say, is Mal's mother in Dragonholt too? Or are there any special events during the festival? Or where will you be settling in, Jasper? I mean, for us, what's most relevant is special events. So let's not pass up the opportunity to ask about that. 2405. Because we want to know if there's places we should go, right? I'm going to be very busy, says Sapphire with a smile. Miriam is getting married today, after all, and the reception is here tonight. Okay. So, evening. This is day 5. Let's not mess this up like we did in our previous thing. Evening at the Swan is the marriage. We've got to be there for that. I thought I might skip that, says Jasper, pulling his son onto his lap where the boy burbles and waves his spoon around like a sword. Maybe take a nap, probably go to the theater. No theater in this town, I'm afraid, says Sapphire. Well, drat. I suppose I'll go to my cousin's wedding after all. You should come, dear, says Sapphire. The wedding is in the Willow Grove. I thought it was... What does she say? The reception is here tonight. The reception. And then the marriage is at the Willow Grove. And I'm certain there will be any number of other interesting things happening throughout the festival. But if Lyra the Liar challenges you to a card game, run the other way, says Jasper. Don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, so we've been warned not to play a card game with Lyra the Liar. I mean, given her name, seems pretty obvious that we shouldn't play. Although if we had deception and awareness, maybe we could beat her. Okay. I'm tempted to go right to Willow Grove for the marriage. We don't want to miss that. Getting married today and the reception's here. All right. Let's not miss that. So let's go to Willow Grove, which is 1790. And if it's too early, it'll tell us. Willow Grove. The road leading south out of the village splits around a large grove of willow and oak trees. The villagers seem to treat the grove as a sort of park or meeting spot. There are almost always children playing among the trees or families enjoying the sun and the breeze, which we know. Okay, if it's day 5, which it is, read entry 5080. 5080. The Willow Grove is busy with gnomes of all descriptions. White ropes have been strung between the trees and festive ribbons dangling from them. If 2 or 3 time has passed. Okay, so there's our note. We're supposed to be here at time 2 or 3. So we've come here too early, but it does say, otherwise read entry 1134. Now, are we going to get penalized for being here early? 1134. A group of gnomes, mostly children, are playing a game involving kicking and throwing a leather ball. The rules seem complex, but clearly running back and forth and shrieking are important. So we can play with the children and gnomes, ignore them and leave, or follow the south road beyond the Willow Grove. I mean, leather ball. I mean, if we play with the kids, maybe we'll get social practice or physical training. I'm guessing that beyond the Willow Grove, where one of our adventures was, it's just going to say, like, if you've already done this adventure, you go back, nothing has happened. But I feel like we don't have time to dilly-dally with these kids. Kicking and throwing a leather ball. Yeah, I'm not gonna go shooting in the dark to try to get our physical training skill. I figure we're gonna get that eventually on our own. I'm not gonna start doing any random thing just to hope for that. So we could leave, or we could follow the south road beyond the Willow Grove, which is, I'm assuming, it's just gonna be something that says if you've already done this story, just go back. All right, no, we don't want to do that now because we don't have our sword yet. So I'm just going to ignore it and leave, and we'll go and we will get our sword, 5780. But we have to remember to come back here for that wedding. Time 2 or 3. If 5 or less, 7743. Okay. Did we mark down? No, the smithy is open till 5. 7743. If N1 is marked but R5 isn't, this is you want the sword, but the sword hasn't been built yet. So that's what N1 marked, but R5 is not, 1640. Okay, let's pick up our sword. Hopefully it's ready. Fiore is sitting on a bench not far from the front of the smithy, watching a blond dwarf man hammering on a piece of red-hot metal by the forge. When she sees you, she reaches for her crutch and hauls herself to standing. "Welcome back," she says. "It's finished." She walks to the brownstone annex and pulls the key from her leather apron, then unlocks a heavy iron door. Wait here, she says, vanishing through it. A few moments later, she returns with a bundle wrapped in red linen under her arm. Get the door, will you? She says as she carries it to her desk. She sets her crutch aside and unwraps the package standing over the desk. I kept it simple, a classic thrusting sword design, full tang of course, with a modest fuller. The haft is oak, wrapped with calfskin leather, and the pommel is brass. The crossguard is steel. The silver is just the outer layer. She holds the sword up and presents it for inspection. Between the gleaming blade and the polished silver crossguard, inlaid with gems, the whole thing shines in the light. The real trick is the rune shard, of course. It's set into the blade itself, with the crossguard helping to hold it in place. There's some bright mall silver worked into the blade of the sword, which, you got me going on. I'm not going to reveal all my secrets. Suffice it to say, this sword will outlive you and any foe you wield it against. She takes a leather scabbard from one of her passing apprentices and offers it to you. Scabbard comes free. Use the sword well, my friend. It was a pleasure to make it. You gain the rune sword. Item N. That's exciting. Put L back where it belongs. Get item N. Okay. Let's see what we got here. The Rune Sword. You hear a low hum while holding the blade that seems to guide your strikes. You have dueling and military as long as you carry this sword. Well, we already had dueling. I'm not thrilled with this sword. That's all it gives us. So it gave us military. All right. That's a waste of 150 gold and a war rune. Not happy with that sword. Can we return it for a refund and get our rune back? What's the refund policy at the smithy? All right. Mark story point R5. Time passes. Read entry 4422. 4422. Yeah, here's back at the smithy. We can purchase new equipment for 25 gold. We can ask if we can help. I think when we asked if we can help, that was where she told us about the mine. I'm just going to peek at this. Nine, eight. Yeah, this is already marked that we did this. I guess we already did it, but I'm not going to do it. It wasn't the mine story. It was something else, but we're not going to do it. All right, so one time has passed. It's still not time for the wedding. Maybe it's time to go to Fairfax Manor. Let's go to Fairfax Manor, which we weren't able to do last night. 1400. All right, so day 5. The serving girl, Matilda, answers the door and ushers you into the great hall. She peers through the door behind you, shakes her head, and closes the door. Too many gnomes, she murmurs, then gestures at the garden. Miss Celise is in the garden if you'd like to see her. So we can join her in the garden. 9839. She's going to be pissed off that we didn't save Philip. They probably know that we didn't even go looking for him. Matilda leads you through the back. I guess I should be writing this down. 9839. Leads you through the back door and into the hedge maze beyond the garden. You find Celise sitting beneath a tall oak tree in the center of the maze, her legs crossed and her eyes closed. She says she likes to come out here to commune with nature, whispers Matilda. Then she creeps away as quietly as she can manage. You approach and Celeste cocks her head but does not rise. Aha! We can meditate, or we can share your suspicions about the Fairfax household. Requires story point P8 is marked. P8 is marked. Okay. Now, finally, we can tell them about Gawain being the bad guy, I hope. Or at least about their whole family being killed off. 2127. It would be nice if we got to tell them about that. Celeste draws closer, glancing over her shoulder to ensure that you're unobserved. Well, you know, I value your judgment highly. Tell me what you suspect. We can, okay, good. So we can tell her of our suspicions about Timothy, or inform her about Sonia's interactions with Gawain, or tell her that we do not trust Matilda's loyalty. So I believe this is a little bit of detectiving, where the first one and the last one are wrong. Like, these people are trustworthy, I believe. So we're going to choose this middle one about Gawain, which I'm very glad that we got to provide this information. 8631. I'm sad that we didn't get to... There was only one time in the entire story where it asks us, have you figured out the hidden message in the letter? And we said no. This was like episode 2 or so, or 1. And it's never asked us again. We subsequently figured it out, but it's disappointing that we didn't get a chance to... If we had known we were only going to get one chance, maybe we would have sat there and tried to figure it out better. You share your suspicions about the stable master Gawain, noting that he saddled her horse for her the day she died, and that she considered this unusual enough to mention it in her diary. And he could easily have tied a sloppy knot or even cut through the straps, causing her to have an accident. Celeste agrees. He'd be the one to examine the saddle as well, so he could hide any evidence of foul play. She frowns and taps her chin. He has the means. In fact, he has better means than practically anyone I can think of, but I'm not so sure about motive. He served the Countess's family for years. In fact, his father served as stable master to Lord Holland. Still, humans have done all sorts of things for gold. Perhaps he's in Kirrick's pocket, or has gambling debts I don't know about. Celeste nods and tugs at her clothing. I think you might be onto something. I'll take a careful look at Gawain. If there's any evidence tying him to Kirrick, I'll find it. Mark story D5. Okay, D5. Mark 1 progress in heroism. Wow, one more. So this heroism is actually fantastic. When we finish this, we get an extra experience, which would let us... we spend experience to get skills, so it would let us get a second skill upgrade. And we get a fame. So I'd love to get more heroism. Okay. Now we could say there's something else, or that's all I had. Well, is there something else? Let's say there's something else. Maybe we can say something about the letter, but it's a little spooky saying there's something else without having something in mind. Or time passes. All right, 2127. There's something else, even though it's escaped my mind at the moment. Oh, I see. This is where we can tell her... We go back to Timothy, Gawain, or Matilda. All right, so we would just say Gawain again. So that's all I had, is what we're saying. Okay, that's all I had. Because we don't have any reason to suspect any of the others, at least that I can remember. So time passes, which brings us to the afternoon. It's time for the wedding. So let's go back to the Willow Grove at time 2, which is 1790. And let's see Miriam and Braxton get married. Okay. If it's day 5, 5080. If 2 or 3 time has passed, 4152. So we went to 5080 and then 4152. A crowd is arrayed in a rough semicircle around a brightly painted gnome caravan parked between 2 willow trees. A small platform is suspended from the back of the caravan, and a pair of patchwork blankets hang from either side of the wagon to the nearest willow trees, creating a backdrop. As you approach the crowd, you see a number of people you recognize, both gnomes and others. Deacon and Tweagle, the guards, stand clustered together, looking hot and uncomfortable in their black and white livery. Lady Rochelle, the countess's daughter, stands with them in a ruffled peach riding dress with tall brown boots. Grisbeck, the baker, laughs as he watches his daughter run in circles with a number of gnome children even smaller than her. Everyone seems to be standing around waiting for something to happen. Sapphire rushes out of the crowd to grab your hand. "Oh, splendid," she says. "You're here. Come, meet the family." She drags you down toward the caravan stage where 2 gnome men are standing in high-collared coats. "Time to meet the father and brother of the bride," says Sapphire. She turns you to the older man, a slim, straight gentleman with white hair and sharp mustache. He bows a little stiffly in your direction while he tugs at his collar. "Isaac," he says, "I'm Miriam's father. I've heard so much about you." "That's his stock answer when he meets anyone he doesn't recognize," says the younger man with a twinkle in his eye. "I'm Hiram, Miriam's brother." He bows and doffs an imaginary hat. "Good to meet you." Hiram looks to be a few years older than his sister, with laughing blue eyes and his hair just long enough to have a few insolent curls brushing on his shoulders. "Oh, I think I see my cousin Pearl," says Sapphire, and she excuses herself. "I believe the brides are on either side of the caravan back there," says Hiram, gesturing behind him, "if you want to visit before the ceremony starts." "Have you met this Bracton?" asks Isaac. "Is she a good sort?" "Papa," says Hiram, placing a hand on his father's shoulder, "Miriam wouldn't be marrying her if she weren't. Anyway, Aunt Sapphire likes her." Says the older gnome, nodding. "So we can mingle with the father and the brother? We can approach Grisbeck and Penny. We can look for Sapphire and Jasper. We can seek out the brides-to-be. We can leave before the ceremony starts. Or we can follow the road and try to go out of the village again." One thing I'm trying to keep in mind is, like, it feels like this is a storyline somewhere. Give it to someone who is in need of luck and love, a little kid. So anytime I see a kid mentioned, I'm tempted to see if they want this doll. But let's see. Grisbeck the baker laughs as he watches his daughter run in circles with a number of gnome children. Everyone's happy, so we don't need to worry about her. We can mingle with the father and the brother. Maybe there's some interesting story there. Seek out the brides-to-be. It seems like we're their friend. That's who we want to seek out. 404608. We haven't talked to them in a while, actually. Walking around behind the hung sheets, you see that Braxton and Miriam have been separated, each exiled to opposite sides of the caravan wagon. You find Braxton polishing her gorget, sitting on the edge of the cart in full armor. The white of her black and white Fairfax tabard is crisp and bright, and the black is deep and strong. Her mail gleams, and her leather boots are freshly shined. Her straight black hair has been tied back, and a wreath of white anemone circles her head. She glances up at you as you approach, and she smiles, setting aside her polishing rag. Are you nervous? She asks you. I am. I shouldn't be. We already did the hard part, you know. Orcs don't even have a wedding ceremony exactly. There's a celebration, but for us, the wedding is just part of what humans and gnomes consider the proposal. As far as I'm concerned, we're already married, and this is just a formality. She looks down at the gorget and blows out a sigh. So why am I nervous? She lifts the gorget to her neck and fastens it in place. It's her family. I need them to like me. They're so important to her, and they've never even met me. What if they don't like me? She stands and fingers the silver chain of her bridal necklace where it lies on the side of her neck. This is torture. I'm not fearless like Miriam. She reaches out to where a beautiful snow-white cloak hangs from the wagon. With a sweep of the fabric, she settles it over her shoulders and fastens it with a silver pin. You can do this, Braxton. You're a knight. A few dozen gnomes armed with judgmental stares is not the most dangerous thing you've ever faced. She nods to you. Thanks for listening. I'm ready. You can tell the others. Okay, and then it wants us to read 2967, which is no doubt going to be Miriam. Let's see if Miriam's nervous. On the other side of the cart, Miriam is pacing back and forth, pausing to peek through the curtain and wring her hands. She's wearing a new skirt of blue amhelin cloud weave over tall laced boots. Her jacket is new as well, waist length of thick fawn linen. White wildflowers are braided into her red-brown hair, and a spray of white lace emerges from her cuffs. When she sees you, Miriam reaches up and touches the flowers in her hair. You like them? She asks. Penny picked them. Daisies. They can help wounds close and ease rheumatism. Miriam peeks through the curtain again. Ugh, I'm so nervous. My family has never met Braxton before. What if she doesn't like them? She wrinkles her nose. Ugh, Hiram, why did you have to wear that coat? And don't stand so close. My stupid brother is going to ruin everything. She steps back and takes a deep breath. No, he's not, Miriam. Calm down. Braxton doesn't care what coat anyone wears. She won't hate your family. This is so hard, she says as she turns to you. I'm not brave like Braxton. I feel like I have butterflies in my stomach, only they're not butterflies. They're fish or something with sharp teeth. Suddenly she reaches out and grabs your hand. Thanks for being there. I can do this. She reaches down and lifts a beautiful white cloak, settling it over her shoulders and fastening it with a silver pin. Aunt Sapphire made it for me. It's my new favorite cloak, she nods. Tell them I'm ready. You step back in front of the divide and get ready for the nuptials. Read entry 3069. Well, it was important for them that we're here, so I'm glad we didn't miss this. At some unspoken signal, gnomes begin sitting down on the grass of the Willow Grove. They form themselves into rough rows in a broad semicircle. Facing toward the wagon stage, space is filling up quickly as more and more guests filter in from the outskirts of the grove. We can sit next to Sapphire, which requires story point X6 be marked, which it's not. Sit next to Grisbeck and Penny, which requires that Q5 is marked, which it's not. So these are like if we've made friends with them, which we have not made friends with either of them. Otherwise, 6953. All right, no one's our friend. 6953. Well, what are we supposed to make friends with everyone? We've got stuff to do. You find a seat next to Jasper. Mal comes toddling shyly out of a cluster of gnome children and collapses into his father's lap, where he curls up staring at you. It's your first wedding, Pebble, says Jasper. Your Aunt Miriam is going to marry the love of her life. We should all be so lucky. At your arched brow, Jasper laughs. Am I sounding bitter? I'm sorry. I'm happy for Miriam, but it does make me think about my own romantic... let's just say my happily ever after is this guy and leave it at that. Right, Mal? He leans down and kisses his son on the head, then turns his attention to the stage. 8123. Eight, 1, 2, 3. Whoa, it's a long double column here. A hush settles over the crowd as Skala, the orc shrine attendant, walks to the wagon. He climbs up onto the stage and raises his hands. Hello, everyone, he says. I understand that gnomish tradition calls for an elder who knows both of the intended to perform the ceremony. I was very pleased to be invited to do so for these two women. If you all bear with me, I'll do my best to keep this brief. Keep this brief. Laughter ripples through the crowd, and Skala tugs at his long beard. He gestures, and musicians begin to play a stately tune somewhere behind you. One by one, Miriam's father and brother walk through the crowd and stand to one side of the stage. They are followed shortly thereafter by the captain of the guard, Tweagle, in his uniform, and Rochelle, the countess's daughter, who stand opposite. Someone is missing, Skala says, glancing between them. Then his eyes rest on you. Aha! Come, they want you to stand witness to. You stand and join the others down below the stage. The music stops, then starts again in brighter and more sprightly tune as Braxton and Miriam walk out from behind the hung curtains, each emerging from the opposite side of the wagon. Braxton is wearing a guard uniform and a crown of white flowers, while Miriam wears a flowing blue skirt with white flowers braided into her hair. New white cloaks flutter from their shoulders. They walk, slowly at first, then faster and faster, around the outside of the assembly, meeting at the top of the semicircle and joining hands. Even in the bright sun of the summer's day, their smiles make your day warmer. Hands joined and sneaking glances at one another, they walk as solemnly as they can manage through the crowd to the stage, where Miriam climbs up to stand with Skala, and Braxton stays standing on the grass. For once, Miriam is the taller of the two. The gnomes say that marriage is walking together, says Skala. The orcs say that marriage is an alliance, fighting side by side against the challenges of the world. Trust orcs to turn everything into a battle. Skala grins as the crowd chuckles. You two have come together because you love one another. You wish to walk together to face whatever may come together. He gestures to the witnesses gathered on either side. Marriage is a lifelong commitment, and beyond as well. The union you create here goes beyond you. It unites your families and creates a new family and a new tradition that will carry on after your deaths. He raises his voice, speaking to the assembly. And all of you here today are part of that. You have brought these people together, and they have brought you together as well. Look around you. The community is forged this day, and may it last ever after. Skala reaches out his hands and touches each bride on the shoulder. It is time. Say your vows. Miriam takes a deep breath. I, Miriam, she squeaks, pledge myself to you, Braxton. Her voice grows stronger as she continues. I will walk with you when you travel and stay behind you when you rest, beside you when you rest. I will wander with you wherever you go, because my home is with you, now and forever. I, Braxton, pledge myself to you, Miriam, chokes Braxton, her voice flooded with tears. But as she continues, her voice too grows stronger. I will be your shield and your comfort. I will hunt for you when you are sick and beside you when you are strong. My home is with you, now and forever. Miriam Emerald, Elad, Everon, Brightstone, and Dame Braxton of Dragonholt, I pronounce you wed, declares Skala. You may kiss the bride. They turn to face each other, and Miriam bursts out laughing. I'm finally tall enough to do this, she says, bending over her wife and dipping her backward with a passionate kiss. Cheers erupt all around you as children run every which way, hurling flowers in the air or directly at the faces of onlookers. The musicians strike up a gay melody. Sapphire begins to sob, and the newlyweds walk through the crowd, arm in arm, smiling and waving as they go. When they reach the edge of the semicircle, they turn. Reception at the Swan, shouts Miriam. See you all there. Then she grabs Braxton's hand, and they sprint, laughing, across the grove. Time passes. The encounter is complete. Okay, so nothing benefited us, but we got to see the wedding, which was sweet. All right, so now, do you think the reception it's time for the reception? When in doubt, for these for this game, it seems like you should always go there early, because if it's not open, time doesn't pass. So if in doubt, we'll go there. So let's go to the Swan, 7,400. I mean, truthfully, I'd like to get some adventuring in, but no, we have our social obligations. All right, we're at the Swan. It's day 5. The Swan is busier and more crammed full of patrons than you've ever seen before. The scattered humans, orcs, and dwarves of Dragonholt cluster in corners, or in one case sit with their feet drawn up under them by the fire, looking about with wide eyes at the seemingly endless parade of gnomes that fill the rest of the available space. Gnomes chatter at all the tables, gnomes bustle in and out of the kitchen with trays of food and beverages, gnomes slap each other's shoulders and swap stories on every scrap of floor. A gnome woman with a glass eye is clowning about near the stairs, popping her eye in and out of its socket to the cheers and gasps of a gaggle of children. 2 gnome men with long black beards perch on high stools and suck on unlit pipes, frowning at everyone and everything. A cluster of gnomes surrounds a dusky-skinned human woman in a sheepskin vest, apparently trying and failing to beat her at a card game. Oh, that's the liar woman. It's all rather a lot to take in. So if 0 or 1 time has passed, no. If 4 or 5 times, so it seems like we should be coming back here at 4. That's going to be the reception. Otherwise, 4991. Four, 991. You don't see any sign of Sapphire or Jasper. The kitchen is closed, notes a passing gnome woman as she sees your confusion. She settles down at a loud table where it seems that a large group of gnomes is collectively losing a card game against a human woman with dusky skin and a sheepskin vest. At the next table down, several gnomes are pushing wooden pieces around a game board with fast and frenetic energy. So we can observe the gnome games, or we can leave. Well, I guess we're going to observe the games. 4081. I feel like we're just passing time. You sit near the action and watch with amusement as the gnomes play their games. Somehow you find yourself roped into joining the board game, which a gnome man with freckles crowding across his face explains with great enthusiasm. It seems to be a game about claiming territory, only to abandon it at key points to seize better territory with the same pieces. The rules are confusing and seem to contradict one another at several points. If we have reasoning, which we don't, we could read something. Otherwise, 9748. So we didn't understand the board game. Let's see what happens at 9748. You think you understand the rules, but you find yourself reluctant to abandon your scoring territories as the endgame territories become available. You finish the game with a mediocre score, although you enjoy yourself well enough. The other players laugh along with you and suggest a few ways you can improve your play as they set up the board to play again. Mark 1 social practice, time passes. So time passes. Social progress, which social practice. Okay, so we finished our social practice. I'll put it here. We finished our social practice. So if we wanted to cash in our 1 experience point, we could get deception, empathy, performance, persuasion, or streetwise. Okay, well, so these 2 are filled. We could do either of these. I really want this one. So I'm hoping we can get some physical training. Okay, now the entry's over, but now it's time to go back to the Swan for the wedding, for the reception, because now it's time for. So 7,400. Day 5. If 4 or 5 time have passed, 4616. Okay. So we went to 7,400, which took us to 4616. Miriam and Braxton's wedding reception has begun, adding to the chaos of the common room. The wedding party has claimed a long table under the windows where you see Miriam seated next to her father. Sapphire waves to you as she passes, headed to the kitchen, where you see that Grisbeck the baker is hard at work on what you presume is the traditional wedding cake. Penny, Grisbeck's daughter, waddles past with the gnome toddler Mal balanced on her feet, cackling with delight at each step they take together. We can sit with Miriam and her father. We can watch Penny and Malachite play. We can help out in the kitchen. Or we can go to our room to let time pass, which is basically leave. Well, we're full up on stamina, right? Yeah, our stamina got restored. So helping out in the kitchen seems like it's food and... Although, is that physical training? Sit with Miriam and her father. Let's watch the kids. Like, it keeps bringing up these kids to us. They don't seem lonely, though. But let's observe them, see if there's some reason they keep coming back into our picture. 9390. At first, you don't see any... 9390. Oh, yeah. Okay. 9390. You pick a seat and watch as Penny and young Mal play, cutting back and forth through the crowd, shrieking and giggling. You soon realize that each time he toddles past you at an alarming pace, Malachite is wearing fewer and fewer clothes. Eventually, a nearly naked child grabs your leg, grins, and then scoots under the table, where only his chubby feet are visible beneath the tablecloth. Penny soon stops by you, fingers all tangled in her dress as she chews her lip. "Excuse me," she says. "Have you seen Mal anyplace? This is me first time minding a bairn, and I do so want to do a good job. So I can point out his hiding place, send her on a wild goose chase, or help Penny by distracting Malachite with magic if we have performance or thievery, which we don't." Alright, let's point out where he's hiding. And let's finish up with these kids. 1799. Like, this is not what I want to be doing. I get the sword. I'm supposed to be fighting. I'm not supposed to be watching out for kids. 1799. You point at Mal's feet while loudly proclaiming that he must be hidden so well that Penny will never find him. The toddler giggles as Penny thanks you gravely and walks away, only to circle around behind and startle him with a giggle. You help Penny gather up Mal's discarded clothes and hold him for a while she dresses him. "Thank you for your help," Penny says as she finishes the last button on his pants. "I don't know what I'd do if I lost the wee rascal." "Oh, I wouldn't blame you if you did," says Jasper, sprawling across the chair next to you. "I lose him 2-3 times a day." 3960. Mal climbs into his father's lap and Jasper swings him upside down. To many giggles. Penny laughs too, sitting next to you with her legs swinging in the air. "So how about it, Penny? You interested in looking after Pebble here as a regular job?" asks Jasper, hauling his son back up onto his lap. "Well, I have to help me die in the bakery," says Penny, "but I would love to look after the wee one when I can." "I can use all the help I can get," says Jasper, "although I suppose as long as I'm staying here, it's not like he can wander off and lose us entirely." Jasper turns to you and flips Malachite upside down in your direction. "What about you? You like kids? Any plans of your own?" So we can say, "I love kids." Like, we could say, "Kids and I don't really get along," or awkwardly change the subject, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to awkwardly change the subject and get out of here. 7955. You flail about for a new conversation subject and wind up asking Penny about her dress. You get the distinct impression that she is humoring you as she explains who made it for her and her favorite thing about it. And the best part, she concludes, is that it has wee pockets in front like this. She shoves her hand in and pulls out a tattered knit owl toy, so I can carry Diggin' Owl with me wherever I go. Mal reaches frantically for the owl, which Penny shoves back into her dress with a look of horror on her face. Jasper laughs. I suppose I should get him some sort of doll, he says. Maybe Aunt Sapphire can sew him one. Okay, I'm ready to give her this doll. 3146. Please let me give it this doll and have it off my conscience. 3146. Cheers spread through the crowd, and you turn about to see Grisbeck and a pair of gnomes carefully carrying a towering cake through the common room. It rises up and up, layers of custard and sponge cake shot through with currants, all crowned with mountains of cream and colorful flowers and berries. Oh my... Is that right? 7953146. Oh my, says Braxton as the dessert arrives at the bridal table. That looks incredible. Good enough to eat, chirps Miriam. So it sure sounded like that kid wanted the doll, but what was it, just rubbing it in our nose, in our face, that we had, if we had said we liked kids, we'd be able to give her the doll? And it's like, oh, you made a mistake, you didn't say you liked kids, so now we're just going to rub your nose in it that you could have given it the doll? 9087. There's lots of things I want to look behind the scenes when this is over to see what is going on. With dinner finally served and full, the guests all settle down into their seats and begin to eat. Sapphire stands up on her chair and welcomes everyone, including those poor innocent passerby who thought they were just coming in for a normal evening at their favorite inn. The good news, she says, is that you eat free tonight, and all you have to do is suffer through a few toasts. Chuckles spread through the crowd as Sapphire looks down at her niece and smiles. Miriam and Braxton are embarking on one of the greatest of life's journeys, and they're doing it together. Seeing the joy they bring each other, I can't imagine anything different. She raises a glass of sparkling wine, a gesture echoed across the room. To Miriam and Braxton, she calls, may their journey together be long and never boring. More toasts follow from Hiram, from Miriam herself. Even Isaac, slightly tipsy, stands up to say a few words. Your focus, however, is on the food. Steaming roast duck, crisp greens dressed in oil and vinegar, rich brown bread with soft goat cheese, stewed vegetables, fragrant with lemon-tinged spices, a traditional gnomish flatbread of milled corn and peppers. The food seems to never end, and it fills you with warmth and joy. You each recover 2 stamina, which we don't need because we're full. Mark 1 progress in social practice, which we also don't need because we're full. And time passes. Eventually, you and everyone else are full, and the crowd pushes away from the tables. Some leave the Swan off to tend their own business and elsewhere, while others cluster into groups as tables are cleared away. Sapphire and Isaac take seats by the fire, sipping mulled wine and reminiscing about the past. Miriam and Hiram drag Braxton to a nearby table, promising to teach her all about their favorite game they played as children. Jasper and Grisbeck share a bottle of mead as they watch their children run shrieking through the room, chasing each other around. So you can join Miriam, Braxton, and Hiram for a game. We can sit with Sapphire and Isaac and talk. We can watch the children with Grisbeck and Jasper. We can return to our room to let time pass, or we can just leave. Oh, really, I gotta tell you, I'm getting a little sick of this whole thing. Whole wedding reception with nothing for us to do, and it's evening. And Got a little pebble in my shoe about this doll. I mean, it says, give it to someone who is in need of luck and love. Like, does that kid really need it? It doesn't seem like that would be the kid. It seems like we should be seeing a sad kid. That kid's not sad at all, right? Although it did approach us with the sucking its thumb. I'm going to give one more chance to give this to this kid. I'm going to sit, watch the children with Grisbeck and Jasper. But I'm not going to be happy if we find some baby catfolk sad creature that needs luck and love, and we gave it to this brat. 5883. And I don't know why I'm going to hang out with the one kid I don't want to. But in for a penny, in for a pound. This is my last attempt to give this kid this thing. You pull up a chair to sit with Grisbeck and Jasper, and moments later, Penny and Mal climb into the seat next to yours. She sets a broad, flat slab to share on the table in front of the toddler and places a few pieces of chalk on top of it. Together they begin to draw. I remember when Penny was so wee, sighs Grisbeck. So much has changed since then, but it still feels like yesterday. I can only imagine, says Jasper. He's already grown so fast, changed so much in the short time I've known my son. They clink their glasses together. To the children, they say. So you can watch the children and chat with the adults, or draw with Penny and Malachite. All right, here we go. 7993. If it doesn't let me give this doll, man, I don't know. I don't want it to give me, but I don't want to hang out with these kids. I'm just doing it for the mission. You help yourself to a spare slate and some chalk and begin drawing. Penny glances over at your work and edges her chair closer. I can help ye if you like, she says. I'm an expert. If you have craftsmanship, which we do. 9559. Your hand moves quickly on the slate, sending up a cloud of chalk dust, but soon you have a fairly lifelike portrait of Penny and Moll. It's me, gasped Penny when she sees it. Look, Moll, 'tis us. Us, coos Moll, clapping his hands and laughing. Do da, says Penny, glancing at her father. And do Malachite's dad as well. You shift your chair to get a good look at the fathers talking and laughing together, and you draw a reasonable likeness of them, too. Ooh, he even got his beard, giggles Penny. She reaches down and shows you her slate. Look what I've drawn, she says, clearly proud of the winged creature on her slate. You hazard a guess that it's a dragon, and Penny sighs. Nah, she says, it's a unicorn, clearly. See the horn here? When you ask why the unicorn has wings, she sighs again, as if unable to believe how dense adults are. Because he's part owl. Mal shows you his slate, a collection of scribbles with a few recognizable shapes. Penny, he says, which makes the girl squeal and cuddle him fiercely to her. And we read 7482. Okay, that was cute. The drawings were cute. I can't help but think that time is just rushing by, though. 7482. Alright, I know I'm already unhappy reading this. A call goes up from the crowd for dessert, and to general cheers, Miriam and Braxton rise and cross to the imposing confectionery edifice. Sapphire rushes forward with a silver serving knife as Braxton lifts Miriam up to stand on a chair. The brides each place a hand on the knife, and then together they cut into the custard and cake dessert to much cheering. Braxton carefully serves her wife the first forkful of cake, but when Miriam returns the favor, she smears a trail of cream across Braxton's nose. The crowd hoots as Braxton gasps, lifts the tiny gnome up with one hand, and returns the favor with a finger's worth of custard. Grisbeck and Sapphire serve out the dessert as the two brides clean up, and then a raucous cry of speech, speech erupts from the crowd. All right, you animals, calls Miriam, climbing up atop a table. No, says Braxton, touching Miriam's back. She turns and Braxton smiles. Let me say a few words. Braxton steps forward, and you realize that somewhere along the way she traded her armor for a generous floor-length gown, one that leaves her shoulders and arms bare. She looks every inch the blushing bride as she looks down at the floor and takes a deep breath. I don't love speaking in front of crowds, she manages, to general chuckles, but I do love Miriam. I fight and I risk my life, but that isn't courage or it isn't from me. It's just what I know and what I do. I've never been afraid to die, but I think before I met Miriam, I was afraid to live. I was afraid to ask for happiness in my life, for anything beyond duty, beyond the fight. So I wanted to thank Miriam and all of you for giving me the courage to live. She drops her eyes to the floor again. Her cheeks flushed. If that's all right with you, she turns to Miriam, whose eyes overflow with tears. Miriam chokes and sputters and finally calls out, "My wife, everybody, Dame Braxton Everon Brightstone. Time to figure out a new family name already of Dragonholt. Hands off, she's mine." A roar and great stamping of feet goes up from the crowd, and Miriam hurls herself into Braxton's arms. Then everyone tucks into their desserts. Yours has a thick slab of cake shot through with currants, drowning in custard and cream, and covered with sweet red and blue berries. It's sweet without being overwhelming and refreshing on your tongue, and far too soon it's gone and the party is over. The celebration continues on the village green, calls Sapphire, waving people out the door. Another bonfire tonight. Mark 1 progress in social practice. That's the second time we've got a progress in social practice that we don't need because we're already maxed out. Time passes and the encounter is complete. So it's now nighttime. And they want us to continue this whole wedding, this whole day for story. At the village green, huh? I really don't want to deal with these people anymore. I just feel like I've invested so much in them, like waiting for something interesting to happen. Well, we missed the last bonfire, so I feel like we have to go there now. For this one, 2900. We can't miss 2 bonfires. Okay. Village Green, day 5. The village green is dense with gnomes. The paddock is flooded with grazing donkeys and pack goats still in their harnesses and ringed about with highly painted wagons and caravans. A pole has been erected in the center of the green, hung with many sashes in a variety of colors. Clusters of gnomes form and reform all across the green, gossiping and dancing and trading and laughing. From somewhere, fast-paced music reaches your ears. It's almost too much to take in. If 1 or more, if 0 or 1 time, if 6 or more time, yes, exactly 6 have passed. Read entry 5894. 4. Okay, 5894. Bonfire burns at the edge of the green, surrounded by chattering crowds of villagers and gnomes. A large band of gnomes and humans is sawing their way through a variety of folk songs, alternating between 2 traditions and learning as they go. The dancers, a mixture of visiting gnomes and Dragonholt villagers, are likewise teaching one another dances to go with the music. Among the dancers, the newlyweds Braxton and Miriam are radiant, although the flowers in their hair are becoming somewhat tattered. You also see Sapphire, Jasper, Grisbeck, and Penny intermingled among the crowd. Resting against the paddock, you see Scala, the orc shrine attendant, watching and smoking his pipe. We can join the crowd in song and dance, or talk with Scala about Dragonholt's traditions, or leave. Like, it's mentioning those damn kids again in the crowd. They're all having a good time. I'm not giving this thing to someone who needs love, to the kids that are loved and have fun. So let's talk about the Dragonholt traditions, 5045. You set yourself down on the edge of the paddock next to the old orc, who nods his head as you approach. An ancient tradition, he says, nodding toward the fire. Who can say when it began or why? It's said that these celebrations are to invite the blessings of the spirit on the village and all who gather here. He grins, his thick, heavy teeth white in the half-darkness. Said by me every week when I light the fire. Who knows? It might even be true. If anyone knows, shouldn't it be you? Who can say when it began or why? All right. If anyone knows, shouldn't it be you? 7502. I mean, I have no reason to prefer one question over the other. They both seem like they're basically the same. You might think that, mightn't you? Concedes the old orc. He takes a long, slow drag on his pipe, then blows sweet-smelling smoke out into the night air. The truth of the matter is complicated. The spirits are powerful beings. Even that's not strictly true. Some spirits are as powerful and ancient as the forest itself. Others are ephemeral, brief things that live but for the space of a candle's flame or a bonfire. He chuckles and strokes at the long braided beard on his chin. I can say that this ritual is not displeasing to the spirits, and some may feel it, pulsing through the world as regular and changeable as the seasons. The spirits like the seasons. They like things that live in the world and are of it. Some spirits, they are just people who haven't given up on the world yet. I suppose you might call them ghosts. Scholar reaches out and claps you on the shoulder. Enjoy the bonfire, and don't worry too much about the spirits. They don't worry about you. Laughing, he walks off into the night. Mark 1 progress in spiritual meditation, which is our second one there. And time passes. So it's the last time of the night. Most things are going to be closed. I don't dare try to leave the village at night. It doesn't like that. The game does not like when you try to do that. The library is going to be closed. We could go to the market and try to get more healing potions. Or the village hall. Have we been to the village hall? I'm trying to think. Or we can go back to the village green and or we could go to the Drunken Hog and see if there's anything. I'm going to go back to the Drunken Hog. That was the place that's only open at night. Okay. 5 or more time has passed. Read the entry corresponding to day 5. The Drunken Hog is its... Sorry, let's write this down. 3505. The Drunken Hog is its usual noisy, smoky, crowded self, only more so. There are so many gnomes drinking, cheering, singing, swapping tall tales, and playing bar games that you almost don't spot the tavern regulars. Reginald is, as it happens, in his usual spot at the bar, but he is also snoring peacefully, face down in a puddle of ale. The other patrons simply move around him as if he were part of the scenery. So we can eat, drink, and engage in tavern behavior for 5 gold, or just leave. I mean, we might catch a whiff of something. But time is going to pass, and that's going to be our last thing to do. Or would we rather go back to the village green and try to talk to those kids? No, I'm done with those kids. All right, but the problem is we don't need... All right. I'm going to spend 5 gold of our 40 just to see if we can get some information, some gossip. 9645. I just have a bad feeling it's just going to give us useless stuff. 9645. You get a bowl of something brown and a mug of something browner. and look for a place to sit. Near the hearth, a buxom gnome woman in a faded dress is telling a story about her adventures in the Broken Plains, to much merriment and heckling from the crowd. Not far away, a cluster of gnomes is playing a game on a wooden board set with metal pegs, flicking pucks of wood at one another. So we could finish our meal alone, join the gnomes in their games, or listen to the tales of adventure. That's what we're going to do. We're going to listen to these tales of adventure, and I would love to be told of some place where I could go and have a little bit of adventure instead of babysitting kids. 8276. The woman in the faded dress finishes her story, and before the general hoots of appreciation and derision have even reached their peak, an older gnome man with a sharp nose and the stem of a pipe caught between his teeth leaps to his feet to take her place. That's nothing, he calls. Let me tell you about my trip through Blackwing Swamp. Now, what you should know first is the legend of Drowned City. How about the legend of the drowning gnome? Jeers an elderly gnome woman, her nose and ears pink with alcohol. The stories continue in this vein for some time, each tale met with disbelief and wonderment in equal measure, with hecklers and boosters by turn. You note that storytellers displaying great confidence are heckled aggressively, while those who seem more timid are generally encouraged to continue. You also note that the audience is not shy about supplying additional details or improvements to the storytellers as they go about their business. All told, you're not certain any of the stories are true, but you can't claim you were ever bored. Mark 1 progress in social practice, which is the third time we've gotten a social progress mark. The third time that we've gotten it beyond where we're already maxed out. So totally useless. Time passes. So totally useless. And that's the end of day 5. So let's read the end of day 5, which was a tiring day. 5035. Like, wow. It seems like everything we did was wrong. The Gnome Festival continues into the small hours, but aside from the occasional lilt of gay music or burble of laughter, no noises reach your room. You climb into bed exhausted and unable to shake a feeling of deep contentment. Your dreams are troubled, however, red things thick with menace. You wake several times in the night and once cross to your window seeking some sign of what woke you. Finding nothing, you collapse once more and are soon asleep. Recover half of your maximum stamina. Okay, well, we're already maxed out because we got on no adventures today. So we didn't need that at all. It was totally wasted. The chapter of the story ends here. When you're ready to begin the next chapter, read 5248. So we will write that day 6, start, read 5248. I feel like the game is punishing us for hanging around the village, getting to know these people. Like, if I could rewind time, I'd just be like, to hell with everyone in this village. I'm just going on adventures outside the village. But on that cheery note, that's the end of day 5 in the village. And we will be back in the next episode, and we're going to get the hell out of this village as quickly as possible. I will see you then.